And we are live. Welcome to this emergency podcast. That is right. We are talking NFL, emergency fun v tailgate. Whoa, little error there. I, of course, am the G-Man, and with me is Matty D. I'm going to introduce him in a second. I just want to explain everything. Originally, we were going to record the NL West preview. We were all set to do that, and then the NFL decided to flex its muscles here on March 12th and prove that it's still king. Odell Beckham Jr. is now a Cleveland Brown, and a lot of other things have happened really in the last 5 days, but Odell Beckham inspired Matty D and myself to make a little edit. We're going to do the NL West tomorrow, but we got to talk football. Matty D, how are you, my friend?
Let me just play this out for you. Well, first of all, you mentioned the NFL flexed muscles. For all the talk of the NBA, of these other leagues trying to catch up, no one dominates the headlines like the NFL. So I want you to picture this headline running. Steelers and Giants, the Rooneys and the Maras. These are NFL royalty. Both these franchises, both these ownership groups, they take on huge dead money hits the next year or 2 years. And they jettison, as they would consider, these cancerous, uber-talented wideouts in, like, jaw-dropping deals. I am stunned. All of this. Stunned. I am blown away. And, I don't even know. When the news came over with Odell, I barely even knew where to go. Like, I didn't know if I wanted to see what they were giving away, what the reactions were. But I just go back to the fact that two of the proudest ownership groups in the game of football, maybe in all of sports, I believe in both cases, both ownership groups flexed their muscles and forced general managers and coaches to move two of the most talented, but clearly most cancerous is the word that they've portrayed. So I'm not trying to say they are bad or good teammates, but receivers who wanted their way, and they ended up. Both probably wake up happier. I think Odell probably wake up the happiest tomorrow, though.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, he goes to a quarterback like Baker Mayfield, who's nothing but absolutely electric. He's got an awesome backfield. Not that he didn't in New York, but he has, a dual threat now, not just Saquon.
Yep.
And he's got a pretty competent line in front of him. He's got a lot of different stuff to be happy about. A great tight end. I'd say David Njoku, definitely better than what the Giants had. And, I'd say a better defense. It's a better position than what he was in. I know that Giants definitely did worse than the Browns already in 2018, but, this certainly widens that gap. And I know they gave up a first-rounder. They gave up our guy, Jabril Peppers, former first-rounder out of Michigan. But I think they're still going to be fine at safety. And I think they're going to be what was that?
There's a rumor floating out there.
You were telling me this.
Earl Thomas interested, that they're having discussions. That would be obviously huge. And by the way,
it'd be an upgrade. That makes it all worth it.
Right.
Not that it wasn't already.
Right. You mentioned now all of a sudden this is a Browns offense that went from having literally almost nothing last year. 2 years
Jarvis
ago.
Landry,
2 years. To last year, they gained Baker Mayfield, as you said, which obviously is a huge deal. Jarvis Landry, Odell's teammate and very close friend. Oh, wait, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, Duke Johnson in the backfield. Antonio Callaway had a breakout year last year. You talked about the tight end position.
About him.
They're loaded right now with skill positions. The offensive line, yes, they do lose the guard, but they gain Olivier Vernon on the defensive side. They gave Sheldon Richardson. They kind of flush out some dead weight on the linebacker position with moving Jamie Collins, which I think he really fit there. You're right. Jabril Peppers is a loss, but they may replace him with a guy like Earl Thomas or some other safeties out there. It's an incredible look. And look at their divisions now. Compare the NFC East to the AFC North for me.
Yeah. The NFC East, I saw a tweet about this, and obviously a lot of people on Eagles Twitter are very excited because now the Giants are basically just handing people away. Not that they had a great 2018 once again, but the Cowboys what's been their best move? Bringing back Jason Witten. The Redskins, not a ton going on there, especially when you bring in Case Keenum. You know, I don't know what you know what I mean. It's happy to be in the NFC. It's happy to be an NFC East fan if you're an Eagles fan.
Well, I think
make any
clearly
sense. Happy to see it if you're an Eagles fan. But
well,
the AFC North, though, you're absolutely right. The Ravens, we'll see what they do. But now the Steelers they were what, 8-7-1 last year. They're not gonna. They might finish below 6 games. They might lose double digits next year. A team that a lot of people were saying that if Jesse James catches the ball, they're going to have home field against the Patriots and go to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Right. Who, by the way, is now a Lion. Jesse James is.
We'll get to those because there's a lot of really good signings out there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's two divisions going in opposite directions. I hate them, but the Cowboys and the Eagles are the class of the NFC East now. The Redskins, they're the Redskins. So he goes from that situation, having to face Wentz and Dak and Elliott and Alshon, to going to face a much less, it appears. Ravens lose 4 starters on the defense, excuse me. They've lost a couple offensive playmakers. What is Lamar Jackson? You could make the argument, by the way, it's just an argument, that the Bengals, who are doing nothing of value, maybe I'll be the second best team in the division. I don't want to take too much away. Big Ben, Juju, still in it with the Steelers, but true. I think Beckham's life just got a whole lot easier.
It absolutely did. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the Browns. Remember last year we were talking about how the Browns might bankrupt Vegas if they won the AFC North? I mean,
yeah.
Now I think Vegas is
picking the Browns
for people to bet on them. They're waiting for that money to come in.
Well, I also want you to think about this: the difference between the two moves. I want to compare them. I think they're important to compare. As talented as Odell is, most people would consider him top 5, but Antonio Brown, along with Julio Jones, are considered pretty much universally the number 1 and 2 receivers in football. I think Brown is less talented but more productive than Julio.
Mm-hmm.
It cost the Oakland Raiders, was it a 3rd and a 5th? Correct? I'm right?
Yeah, 3rd to 5th. 3rd and 5th. And the Steelers had to keep $21 million in dead cap space.
Dead cap. Right.
Yep.
And he's 31, I believe he's going to be on a big deal. Beckham is 26. Now, that is 4 to 5 years younger, depending on their birth dates. And I get that. But you could argue, as good as he's been, he has an injury history, something that Brown really doesn't have a ton of, other than a cheap shot by Vontaze Burfict of the Bengals. And they have to give up a 1st-round pick, a 3rd-round pick, and a young, promising safety. I wouldn't call him a star, promising safety. So they gave up so much more. Now, I know that means they're probably going to get 4 to 5 more years out of Beckham, but Brown is still super talented. It's just amazing the difference in packages. And I think a lot of that has to come with the fact that Beckham wasn't considered available. And Brown was. And you saw Brown ruined the Steelers' leverage, which is why I'm surprised they even traded him. That's how I felt. I was a little shocked. I would have said, hey, you know what? He wants to try to force his way out. You better wait for a better deal. But I guess that's where I think the Rooneys stepped in and said, we're making this deal. We want him gone. But it's just amazing, I think, to me.
Yeah.
When you look at them all.
No, I totally agree. And I should correct myself. I said 9-8-1. They were 9-6-1. So, you know, the Steelers were. Yeah, I just saw this too. The Browns have gone to now the third highest odds to win the AFC. Vegas is so excited for this.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, you know,
here's another thing.
I was going to say, I mean, they're defensively, their secondary is still pretty solid. I know with Oakland Ward as well. I mean, they're in we'll see where exactly. Denzel Ward is exactly who I was getting after, but we'll see what Oakland does. I mean, they have so much other stuff going on. So we basically just have to see what John Gruden does in the draft here. So,
and here's what else I would say. Yeah, you're correct. I think Oakland is not, they're still really good, but I will say this too, defensive wise. So we talked about, they have Demarius Randall out there, who's been their free safety for quite a while. TJ Carey's okay on the other side. There's plenty of options like an Earl Thomas. like a Tayshaun Gibson, who was there. I don't think he signed anywhere, who was there before in Cleveland. There's plenty of safeties they can find. There's probably a box safety or two around that they can pick up, even though a couple of them have signed for big deals. It's actually, he's on a 5-year deal, I believe. So he's coming into his second year of that 5-year deal, I think. OBJ is right.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, so if he signed a 5-year mega deal, all right, and he's in the second year of his deal, Baker Mayfield is on the second year of his deal. So I believe it lines up. So when Baker is due for his extension, is at contract escalation after 5 years, because he's a first overall pick, 5-year deal, you can either keep Beckham or move him. So there's no problem with Baker's potential massive contract that's going to come up, which is another really smart move by a Browns front office there. So,
yeah, it's the way that they've constructed themselves has been exciting to see, and and I think they can make a lot of moves. The rumor of Earl Thomas out there, and we'll see what else they can pull off. Dorsey has been nothing but awesome for them since he took over.
Yeah. I certainly agree. I do think they wish right now that Joe Thomas, who I'm watching on NFL Network at the moment, who has lost a ton of weight and looks great, was still playing left tackle. I do have some concerns about their tackle positions. Some guys who are okay. But other than that, I mean, this team is loaded. This team looks really good on paper. That's the best way I can put it.
I would say so. Would you say behind New England and Kansas City, number 3, or would you still put someone else ahead? I'm trying to think of.
No, I still think the Chargers.
Yeah,
have to be ranked ahead. I really do.
Chargers maybe.
But honestly, I mean, after that, wow.
I'm trying to think of who. I don't want.
You're making me think.
Depending on what Denver does, I think maybe if they.
I don't want to forget about the AFC South. Because really, there's all 4 teams in the AFC South have the opportunity when you look at it on paper. What some of them did last year, and when you think of the Jaguars, how much they free fell last year, and they still have a ton of talent, is if Nick Foles is the real deal. I might consider them, because I'm a pessimist when it comes to offseason moves and free agency moves, I'm going to keep them at 5. Because I think
Texans?
No. The Browns.
The Browns, yeah. Okay.
Because I need to see how there's a lot of personality all of a sudden, right? You added a lot of personality to this team.
True.
So we need to see. And you add an Earl Thomas who has a personality.
So what you're going, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
That's all right.
So you're going Chargers 3, and then you're going Texans 4?
I am going to go with the Texans 4.
Yeah.
Although I got to be,
their defense played well enough that really they shouldn't have gotten pumped by the Colts the way they did.
No, I
wouldn't sleep on the Colts either. You actually brought up a good point.
I know. That's
reminding me the AFC South exists because I kind of forgot about that.
Yep.
And I shouldn't, considering I saw Nick Foles' locker earlier tonight and was shed a little tear.
Yeah.
And that on our Instagram story if you haven't. I got to check out the Eagles. Novacare complex.
Dude, amazing opportunity for you. I was very jealous.
Yes.
I would say this too. You can't sleep on the Titans. They've got some talent too. So we'll see what happens. But I like him at 5, and I like the Titans, excuse me. They've got talent there, and they've added some pieces, but I'm not ready to consider them better than the Browns. It's amazing that I'm saying that, by the way. Better than the Browns.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, I texted one of my buddies because the Sixers were also playing the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight. And the Cavs, seemingly as soon as it got announced, they were playing the Sixers fairly tight in the second quarter. The third quarter, they got it within a couple points. In the fourth quarter, they actually took a lead for a few minutes. And I just said they're playing with that Odell energy now. And he was over the moon about this. So, I mean, spirits are high in Cleveland. There were a lot of different tweets saying LeBron's coming back to the Cavs another time. Imagine if he didn't leave, all this stuff. It's a fun time if you're an Indians or if you're a Cleveland fan, I was about to say, and they have the Indians who stay tuned in a couple weeks for the AL Central preview. Right. But we continue on in our emergency pod for those who are listening live on YouTube, which we understand we have a couple listeners out there. If it still is saying the NL West preview, I have tried to update it, but if you tuned in late, or you're listening on the podcast, just a quick reminder, we were going to record the NL West. We are doing an emergency pod for the NFL because it has flexed its muscles. But Matt, there's a lot of other stuff that's gone on too. Obviously, AB and Odell are the two big ones, but had a couple other trades as well.
Yeah, well, I want to say there's actually the biggest name, arguably, and for everyone thought being moved this year, hasn't signed anywhere, and that's Le'Veon Bell, who still sits unsigned. Now, I wouldn't say the running back market has been particularly exciting, and I didn't expect it to be. We saw Latavius Murray sign with the Rams, which wasn't a needle mover for me. I'm hearing rumors of Mark Ingram tied to the Ravens, which is an interesting connection because it appears, according to the insiders, that Le'Veon's two biggest contracts currently contract offers are with the Jets. They're thinking $20 million, along with the Ravens around $17 million. Now that's just what we've heard. There's no facts there yet.
Also, because the reason for this is because, just to correct you, Murray went to the Saints, not to the Rams.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. They same colors. You got me confused. You're good. Right. Still not a needle mover for me.
I actually like that move a lot. He's definitely a guy who he went to Minnesota, had a kind of a, he's all right with the Vikings for 2 years.
Okay.
But when he was in Oakland for those couple of years, he had some pretty solid seasons, and he can really, put the ground and pound in there. I think he could be a good backup to Alvin Kamara, and I think he's not Mark Ingram, I don't think, to that level, but he could be. We'll see what Sean Murray can do with him.
Yeah, I guess, and look, they clearly like
Sean
him.
Payton, looking at Murray.
Sean Payton. You're fine. I don't know. Like I said, I'm just a little – I haven't really been a Latavius guy. Maybe that's why I'm down on him.
That's fair.
Yeah, but I guess my question to you would be thoughts on Le'Veon signing nowhere, and – if you had to guess, what team do you think he should sign with out of all the teams, not just the two I mentioned, and which team do you think he will sign with in this free agency period?
Yeah, that's a fair question. So the thoughts on him not signing yet is, I think he obviously had a year where he was trying to get paid, get everything that he wanted. And, I think teams that have the cap space, if that's really the number one to him, good for you. Go look for it. If I was him, I'd want to go look for a contender. And, just thinking off the cuff of who I think could go get him. Chargers have cap space.
Yeah, but they have Melvin, so they're probably not going to touch him. Even though Melvin has an injury history.
Yeah, I was thinking add him along with Melvin as kind of a guy to be a swing guy, that 1-2 punch. Go to Denver, maybe go out with Joe Flacco and see what you can do there.
Yeah, I got to tell you, the team. Well, first of all, I get the Ravens' interest, but if I'm him, why do I want to face 9-man fronts, get pounded into the earth because they're going to run him 300 times and have him get injured? And I get the Jets. They're desperately looking for help to help Darnold. He's a big name. The team that I think and I wish would strike would be, and this would vault them up to my top 4, maybe even top 3, would be a team with a ton of cap space, the Houston Texans.
I was wondering how much cap space do they have?
Yeah. Creating their own killer bees, if you will. I know it's a little bit, sorry, Steelers fans, with DeAndre Hopkins, Le'Veon
I think they
Bell.
like to forget those jerseys, so I don't think they're offended.
And awful jerseys. And Deshaun Watson. That's quite a group down there. A healthy Will Fuller. You had a couple other pieces. I think he makes a lot of sense there, but I've heard there's no sniffing for them.
Yeah, I hadn't seen much of that either. I saw the Jets, and I didn't want to just go chalk and saying them.
Yeah.
I've also been seeing that Mark Ingram might be trying to look at the Ravens, so that might be a nice 1-2 punch of Ingram and Le'Veon if he tries to go there. Ingram takes some of that pounding from the 9-man fronts of either Cleveland, Pittsburgh, anyone else they have to face. I don't know who the AFC North has to face this year in terms of NFC teams, but then they spread it out a little bit. With Lamar, that might be a fun dynamic offense.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of Eagles fans who really thought he might be coming here.
I don't know if we have the space for him, though, right?
Well, we do. We can make it happen. We have to move a couple other pieces. We could probably do it. He can't get the biggest deal he'd look for, but it's a possibility, especially before the Malik Jackson signing, which we'll get to in a minute. I also think I heard ESPN's Chris Mortensen say this. He's under the impression that there's some NFL owners out there who are tight with the Rooneys and aren't particularly excited to sign somebody who decided he didn't want to play all year after saying he would. So that was interesting to me, an interesting comment. And a lot of teams just don't believe in paying running backs. The Eagles have consistently been a team like that. The Patriots have been a team like that. A lot of successful teams don't give out big money to running backs.
Yeah.
And I think Le'Veon's holding out, and I think he'll get it. I mean, the Jets are offering it, so if he wants it, he can get it. But I think it hurts his value to go to a potential contender because it's just not what a lot of the better teams in the league do.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see him go to the Jets. I just think they can also build out differently, and we'll get to a couple of their signings that they've made. But
let's get there.
Yeah, I was going to just get one last word.
That
they certainly have the saga. You see this a lot on Twitter too tonight that the NFL has stolen the final weeks of the baseball offseason from Major League Baseball. And I think until Le'Veon Bell does something, it's probably going to be a cloud over the other three major sports in America and possibly over the Women's World Cup as that comes around too, if it goes that far into the summer.
Yeah.
So, it's not like Bryce Harper and Manny Machado just kind of putting a complete halt on everything, very obviously, but it's certainly it's going to be the one that until it happens, it's the number one question asked out of any football fan's mouth.
Right. And I think it's yeah. I mean, he's a potential power shifter, if you will. So yeah, no, I'm with you. But
a lot of the AAF comment.
Say again,
man. You didn't take the bait on the AAF comment.
Well, I heard it, but I let it ride for a minute.
All right, let's move to some other stuff. I know we have a few other trades we wanted to talk about, and then obviously a few big signings too. What do you want to start with?
Well, let's start because we haven't brought I guess I mentioned very slightly in our last conversation, last segment there, but let's talk a trade that we are very involved with and emotionally involved with, and that's the return.
Yes.
Of DeSean Jackson.
Yes. I love this trade. Have you seen any terms of what the Eagles are sending back to Tampa Bay?
Yes. So here's the trade for you. Okay. So we send a 2019, this year's 6th round draft pick, over to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and in return, they send us DeSean Jackson along with their 2020 7th round pick. So that's it. Essentially, what happened here is Jackson had the opportunity they were going to release him, but we made the decision to make the trade, and I because we wanted to make sure he didn't have the opportunity to go anywhere else. So essentially, we give a 6th for Jackson and a 7th. We also stretched his deal to a 3-year deal. Essentially, the first 2 years are guaranteed of that deal. So he's got it looks like at least 2 years here, and I wouldn't call it ridiculous money on those 2 years as well. So we did stretch his deal out a little bit.
No, and as I said, I love this trade. It's something that you constantly brought up when Chip Kelly first dumped DeSean and LeSean, but DeSean for nothing, LeSean for a number of different assets we talked about. But DeSean got dumped for nothing and went to the Redskins, liked to burn us, went to Tampa, and he actually burned us earlier this year or back in September. But what he does is he gives Carson a deep threat that spreads the field out and spreads the defense out to give Zach Ertz space. It gives Alshon Jeffrey space. It gives name any other receiver that Carson's going to throw to. It gives them space if the Eagles want to just go complete guns ablaze offense, just all through the air, even though they still have an awesome running back core. It gives them that ability to do it. It gives them a lot of flexibility. And it even gives them the flexibility to scare a team into a draw play and have Corey Clement, Jay Ajayi, whomever you want to talk about, on either a swing pass, a run up the middle, whatever you want.
Yeah. Here, I mean, a couple of things too, and you brought up a good point with that last comment. You always talk about nose tackles in football and how their impact doesn't show up on the stat sheet. Well, deep threats don't always show up on the stat sheet in the same way because they are a gravitational pull for secondaries, right? Corners and safeties have to know where Jackson is. They have to back up a little bit in order to do that. Here's some, and so, by the way, he's 32. Well, is he still one of the best deep threats in the league? He reached 20-plus miles an hour, all right, on 8 of his 52 touches. That's 15.4%. 15.4, which doesn't sound like a lot. Well, the next closest was Tyreek Hill at 12.4. So here's a guy who consistently hits top gear still. And you could argue, if you look at advanced metrics, is still the best quote unquote deep threat in the league. He's not, right? There's other guys that have that produce more. He averages 19.1 average target depth. So he's consistently 20 yards down the field on his catches. And this is actually the most amazing stat, if you ask me. He has 29 touchdowns of 50-plus yards, second only to Jerry Rice's 36. So even at 32, he's one of those rare guys who hasn't lost a step at all. And I know there's some locker room issues, but he wants to be here.
You know, I saw a lot of that, of the locker room issues and stuff like that. I mean, there was all the rumors of why Chip Kelly cut him and all that.
Yeah.
I mentioned LaShawn McCoy. I know there's some Deshaun stuff that's come out since he left the Eagles, but I'd still rather take Deshaun over LaShawn. LaShawn turned out to be, kind of an asshole. And, whether it's the tipping stuff here that happened before he left the Eagles, a lot of the stuff that's happened in Buffalo.
Well, and yet both LaShawn has made overtures at times. He still has a house here. Deshaun clearly wanted to come back. Jeremy Maclin had interest. And so I think that these guys miss Philly, and that I feel comfortable with that, knowing he's coming back. And man,
he was pumped in his Instagram live.
Oh, that Zach Ertz is freaking raising his hands in the air somewhere because his middle of the field space just opened up even more.
Yeah, I think Zach Ertz, Travis Kelce, there might be a legitimate debate for a number one tight end next year with him.
I agree. Certainly
at fantasy level. I mean, and then just objectively on football level, I think so too. Pro Football Focus at the end of the year, we'll see what they end up doing.
Yeah,
it's going to be awesome. And I mean, I think the stock in terms of touchdowns for every wide receiver, as you mentioned, it might not show on Deshaun's stat line, but it's going to show for Alshon. It's going to show. It's going to show for Dallas Goedert even. I mean, think about that. They could run that 2 tight end set with Deshaun just in either the Y spots, the slot, or even in an X, and just have him go. Carson takes a 5-step drop, looks that way, and then Goddard's on like a 10-yard post. Bingo.
Yep, Nelson Aguilar's life just became easier if we decide to bring back Jordan Matthews.
Yeah.
Anybody coming out of the backfield. I think it really opens a lot of things up. Not the only. There's still been a ton of other big moves. I don't want to. I'd love to just get nitty gritty about it.
Yeah, because we could talk that in the Malik Jackson trade all night if we wanted to.
Right.
And we'll come back next week, but
a
lot of other moves as you mentioned that have gone down recently. Break us down in a couple of.
I wanted to run through another NFC East move. That's the signing of Landon Collins in Washington. I'm going to lump this in with a number of safeties who have also decided to sign. 6 years, $84 million for Landon, 45 guaranteed. They're basically becoming the professional version of Alabama. He joins Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, Ryan Anderson, Sean Hamilton, Clinton Dix. They've got a lot of Alabama on that defense. Not necessarily a bad thing. And along with that, so you see he gets a huge deal. And Tyrann Mathieu signs a massive deal as well with the Kansas City Chiefs. I was a little surprised on that one as well, but just because Eric Weddle goes to the Rams. So a lot of safeties in a market that's normally not as strong coming out. That's 3 years, 42 for Mathieu, 2 years, 12 million, I think, maybe 15 for Weddle. The safety market went fast in terms of signings, and by the way, and none of them were named Earl Thomas, which is somewhat shocking to me when you think about it.
Do you think that's more on Earl Do you think he might be asking for a lot of money, or what do you think the deal is there?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. So he's asking for a lot of money. He's over 30, and he's had some injury history. You see him go out last year with the broken leg, and so. But he is a free safety, and somebody should, in my opinion, pay up for him because he's as good as it gets in controlling the middle of the field. Tyrann Mathieu is a versatile safety. He reminds me of Malcolm Jenkins, right? He can play a little box safety, a little deep safety. He can cover the slot, makes him very versatile. Landon Collins has the ability to do a lot of man-to-man. Thomas isn't as versatile. He requires you to have a strong box safety in front of him, a.k.a. Cam Chancellor. He'll go somewhere smart. And I think that'll make some sense at some point here. Yep. And so I liked. I don't really know if I love paying any safeties a ton of money. By the way,
that's good.
Tashawn Gibson goes to the Texans to fill back in for Tyrann Mathieu, and he had a great year with the Jaguars. So I expect big things from him there. I'm with you too. I really like the Mathieu deal, although it might have Eric Berry's tenure end because he's the highest paid was the highest paid safety in the league.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. LaMarcus Joyner, by the way, leaves from the Weddle signing and signs with the Raiders. So the Raiders get a little stronger on the back end too. A lot of safeties going. Yeah, a lot of safeties going early. Signing early, I should say. So jump in. Thomas is probably one of your last bets. Kenny Vaccaro signed a box safety, signed with the Titans. A lot of safeties.
Can I ask you about the few moves the Jets made and the one they did not, or that turned out they didn't make? Because they get Crowder as a wide receiver to add for Darnold. They get C.J. Mosley for linebacker, which I actually think is probably their best move. Then they almost got Anthony Barr, and he actually backed out to re-up with the Vikings. But I think the two moves there, at least, I think they both had different wrinkles. I think Mosley's a little better than the Crowder signing, but I think both certainly help the Jets where they're at.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of slot guys that have signed. Crowder, Adam Humphries. You think of Cole Beasley with the Bills. Humphrey went to the Titans. I think that's a mistake signing these slot guys to deals, and here's why. You go the Patriots have found ways, and a lot of other teams have found ways to find late round or undrafted free agents who can fill that slot role. So dumping a lot of money in a slot receiver is somewhat of a risky proposition, simply because other teams have found the ability to find these guys like running backs.
Invest in other sports, not in slot guys. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I would rather you see homegrown the slot guy. The hard part with the slot guy too, and it's the reason why a lot of these guys leave, like a New England. I'm using them as an example because you think of a lot of the guys they have there and don't have the same success elsewhere. Slot has to be on the same page as the quarterback.
Yeah.
It's not, right, because they're making quick cuts. They're reading. So anyway.
That's why I said other sports.
Yeah.
Lacrosse players.
Right. You're thinking of Edelman here, I'm assuming, correct?
I almost called you Greg. I almost made the mistake. Chris Hogan. You forget he played lacrosse.
Edelman. I mixed up Hogan and Edelman. That's terrible.
Edelman, though, to your point, though, about quarterback, quick thinking, quick moves, he played quarterback in college. So
he did.
Mine's always sharp, Eddie.
Yep. But I want to praise the Jets for basically outbidding the Ravens for CJ. That's basically what they did for CJ Mosley.
Yep.
I think he's 6 years in the league, 5 Pro Bowls or something along those lines. The guy is a stud. Shocked that the Ravens let him walk. He's getting $85 million.
He's getting a lot of money.
Yep, but he's only 26. So that deal, if he runs to his full, will still be 31, which is perfect for this team. They've desperately needed a leader on defense, and they've desperately needed somebody to lock down that linebacker position after years of David Harris doing that for them. I think Mosley gives them that. Now, look, they're paying a lot of money for a non-pass rusher, but they're in position to do that in the draft. They have the 3rd overall pick. They're going to have their pick of Quinnen Williams, Josh Allen. We'll get into the draft preview later, but Josh Allen. There's a lot of really good deep defensive ends or linebackers that you can get in this coming draft. I loved this deal, and I actually think they're going to benefit from Anthony Barr saying no.
You think so?
Yeah. Barr, he's good, but he only has 13.5 career sacks, and they were going to pay him to be a sack guy. He's played most of his career as a 4-3 outside backer. had some struggles last year in a contract year.
3-4? They run a 3-4 defense?
The Jets are a 3-4 defense. They've considered switching, but they've stayed that way, which is why Quinnen Williams might be their guy. They bring in Greg. Yeah, they bring in Greg Williams, who has considered running more of a they come up all the time in my conversation, don't they? A Patriots style hybrid. Patriots want a lot of 4-3, 3-4 mix to throw teams off. Hence Trey Flowers' big deal, which we'll get to in a second. But I was okay with them walking. By the way, the Jets could go out and try to sign Justin Houston. I know he's older, but you put him on a 1 or 2 year deal, you got a productive edge rusher, you think. So I'm okay with walking away from quite a deal for Anthony Barr, who I loved, by the way, coming out of UCLA, but hasn't really blasted through.
Yeah, it's been okay.
Yeah. Another linebacker heading elsewhere would be our own Jordan Hicks.
Yep.
4-year, $36 million deal, $20 million guaranteed. What are your thoughts?
Obviously bummed to see him go. It's going to be interesting to see how everything goes to replace him here in Philly. I wish him the best.
Yeah.
But I keep coming back, at least on the Eagles side, I keep coming back to, and granted, this is more traditional linebacker and not the linebackers running up almost like an additional defensive end like we've seen out of so many of them. But I keep thinking of the fact that they can almost run like a hockey team of just running lines of different players to come off the edge, come back into coverage as a covering linebacker. So I think they'll be okay. I think Jim Schwartz can really figure that kind of stuff out. But definitely a guy I'm going to miss.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think his injury history is why I'm okay with not overpaying him. I think that's what the Cardinals had to do. By the way, longtime Panther Thomas Davis signs a deal with the Chargers. He appears to be somewhat ring hunting, which is okay. I think it's a good fit potential for him. They've had a lot of struggles in their middle linebackers injury-wise, although he is also injury-prone. But guys overcome 3 ACL tears in the same knee. And the Panthers' all-time leading tackler. He'll bring some serious leadership to that locker room, which I think is important. And Terrell Suggs leaves the Ravens and goes to the Cardinals, which I was shocked about. 1 year, $7 million deal. And I don't even know if I know why he went there. I mean, you're thinking of a guy at the end of his career. Cardinals had the first overall pick in the draft. I was a little surprised with that move, too. I don't know. Yeah.
I think a lot of these moves have been, some have been solid. Some have been kind of, I don't know, desperation is the right name. Because, at the end of the day, if you can add wins, you can add value. It ends up working out. But the salary cap in the NFL is so intriguing to me in that way. Of there are certain guys that you spend so much money on, and other guys that come, for that you'd say are a dime a dozen guy and end up being completely invaluable. So, who knows which guys we're loving right now or hating right now, and that end up being good. So there's some I agree with that can be really kind of what's this risk, like a Quan Alexander to the 49ers. 49ers making a couple nice moves too.
I'm really out on that Quan Alexander. I think they outpaid themselves. Well, the 49ers have this history of overpaying for a number of players. And I think the 49ers, Quan Alexander falls into that.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's coming off injury. He's the third highest paid inside linebacker in the league. Yeah. So, I mean, certainly there. But that's a guy, though, if it works out and he stays healthy. I mean, think about that. A lot of people said that about Alshon with the Eagles. And granted, he missed a couple games this year, but the first year it worked out.
I mean, this is a team that signed Malcolm Smith to big deals. Kyle Juszczyk, who's a fullback. You think of Jarrett McKinnon. I know McKinnon got hurt, so I don't really, but they do tend to fall in love. I just thought 4 years, $54 million. They had Fred Warner there, who kind of shined last year. They could have gotten Zach Brown or Brandon Marshall maybe on a much cheaper deal. Like I said, there's a reason I don't work in NFL front offices, but there is one of the linebacker we got to point out before we move on here. Probably, arguably, the best pass rusher, and I know Trey Flowers was signed, but you could argue the best pass rusher in the market this year has found a new home. Relatively breaking news. Came out a little while ago. the Chiefs, which by the way, I'm a little surprised they're going this route, but they are moving to a 4-3, so that does change things, have traded their franchise tagged linebacker D4 to the San Francisco 49ers. So they add another linebacker with a 5-year, $87.5 million deal.
Mhm.
Haven't gotten all the details on this yet, but it's a surprising but great move, I think, for the 49ers for that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think
second round pick, by the way, just found it.
Okay, you got that. Yeah, I had not seen what the details were for that. I just think, the 49ers, they're taking that risk. I know Jimmy G's coming off injury. Is he going to be ready week 1? Do we know?
I've been told yes, but
okay.
I think he'll be good to go.
Yeah, so I mean, fingers crossed everything stays healthy if you're a 49ers fan, and it could be a fun year for you. I mean, last year was supposed to be they were everybody's dark horse pick, the Regis Philbin pick, if you will. But who knows this year of being the NFC West team that could shock some people. In a division where Arizona's trying to get up, see what Josh Rosen can do in year 2, if he really is a dud or if it was just a bad first year. And the rest of that division as well, with Seattle where they're at, and
by the way,
the rest of that division,
as great as the Rams were last year, they have some concerns. We obviously saw their performance in the Super Bowl. They went there, but Jared Goff showed some holes. And because of their big signings, they don't have a ton of depth. So their ability to weather injuries. So it places the 49ers in a position, along with the number 2 overall pick in the draft, by the way, which they could take another pass rusher, maybe pull back, maybe go after a wide receiver to help Garoppolo because they are needy there after missing out on AB and Odell. I mean, there's a lot of potential for this team to make at least a statement this year that, hey, we're going to get where we need to be. But I don't know if they're ready to compete with the big boys yet, because I don't know if they have enough offensive skill position right now.
Yeah. It'll be really interesting to see where they go with their number 2 pick, and I'm going to ask you about that in a second. I think the one thing, if you're a Rams fan, that's concerning, not necessarily the performance in the Super Bowl, but just the amount of times that they could have blown teams out in the regular season and let them hang in. Seattle covered both times, and they were more than a touchdown dog, and they made them. I think they lost by a grand total of 7 points in 2018 to the Los Angeles Rams of Anaheim, of California, of North America, which America. But yeah, the 49ers, with the number 2 pick, I think they should trade back. I think they should pull a Belichick. Yeah,
I actually think the first 3 teams in the draft should trade back. Yeah, I do. I really do. I mean, the Cardinals have Rosen, the 49ers have Garoppolo, and the who's the third pick?
Do you think it's going to be quarterback, like we all thought last year was going to be?
It always happens, right? Some team is going to go up and get, whether it's Dwayne Haskins, Kyler Murray, Daniel Jones of Duke, they're going to fall in love with somebody, and they're going to pull the trigger to get up there. It happened with Mitch Trubisky, who everyone thought was going to go much later. So maybe it's the Dolphins, maybe it's the Giants. I mean, you're telling me you're one of those top 3 teams. You can take the Giants 6th overall pick, probably still get a pass rusher that you want in this deep draft, and then net a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, maybe a couple picks, maybe a player. I don't see how you don't take that.
Yep.
That's just where I'm at.
No, I totally agree with you. I think I'm big fan of trading back, trying to get assets, building it up. We've seen how it worked for the Eagles. We saw how, and then what they were able to trade up into. We saw how it worked on the other side of it for the Cleveland Browns, where they're at right now. And a number of other stories of how that's happened, of just being able to build up assets that way and go for it. I mean, it happened with the Rams.
Yep. No, I certainly agree.
Are they still getting Robert? Are they still getting Robert Griffin III picks? I was facetious. I know they're not.
I wish, just to pick on the Redskins.
But
I actually don't really hate Robert Griffin at all. I think he got screwed out a little bit. But anyway, I do want to mention, I think we always forget about there's some moves that there's a whole position group that we don't ever talk about when it comes to free agency. They're not sexy, and that's the offensive line. I do think we have to touch on it momentarily. And I'll use the example of our own Philadelphia Eagles. they go out and sign Brandon Brooks in a quiet deal at the time. It was a big deal, but a quiet deal because he's an offensive lineman. He has turned out to be a godsend for this team. And one of the best in football at his position, an all-pro, even with his injury. Number of other teams went out and signed some guys, and I want to just give a shout-out to a couple of them. Carolina Panthers signed former Broncos center Matt Paredes to a 3-year, $27 million deal. He's an excellent center, young, very, very good. Roger Saffold goes to goes from the Rams to the Titans in a 4-year, $44 million deal to strengthen their offensive line. He had a great year last year with those Rams, going to a already strong line there. And then I'm missing a center for the Bills. The Bills signed. Wait a second. I will know.
They got the guy from the Redskins. Hold on, let me get back to it.
Well, the Packers signed Billy Turner. By Packers very involved too. 2 free agents, Smith, Preston, and Ladarius, who are going to replace Clay Matthews, by the way, who appears to be gone, as well as Nick Perry. They're never active, by the way, the Packers, but you got something interesting there as well.
I'm going to fuck up the guy's name. It's Ty Nsekhe.
Is that the center though?
The offensive tackle they got. The Bills got from the Redskins.
Yeah, he's another guy that I really like at the tackle position. Mitch Morris comes from Kansas City and signs a 4-year, $44 million deal to also go to the Bills. Bills smartly adding line protection because you can get wide receivers. You can find some guys to help in that regard.
They added a couple.
They did, but let's get an offensive line too to protect your. I'm not a believer, but protect your franchise guy in Josh Allen is really where I'm at there. But you were right. There's a tackle that went. Probably, I think the worst signing is Jawan James, who gets this huge deal from the Broncos. $52 million deal comes from the Dolphins. Guy really struggled. He now becomes the highest paid right tackle over guys like Lane Johnson. I'm not sure I'm 100% on board with that signing. But you know what? You got to overpay to protect quarterbacks, and sometimes you pull the trigger on that. And so I guess I understand to an extent.
Yeah.
Can you? Do we want to just briefly touch on Trey Flowers?
We can. Yeah, we absolutely can.
5 years, $90 million to take the best defensive end off the market and head to Detroit to be with his own defensive coordinator.
I don't hate it. I think what the Lions are doing, I don't think these are all answers, especially with where the Bears are at.
Yep.
What the
Packers are still there.
Yeah.
Lions still have Stafford. Oh, I'm talking about the Lions. Who am I missing?
Yeah.
Who am I missing? Oh, Vikings.
Yeah.
Expect them to have a bounce back here. Yep. Go on now.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, so I don't think any of these are answers, but he's only 25. So I think it certainly helps to put pieces in place. Turn this into a Bears-Lions division instead of Packers-Vikings in a couple years. I don't know what they need to do if they need to try to. I think it would be kind of dumb to try to look at replacing Matt Stafford because you just paid him a year and a half ago, but maybe finding a guy to back him up and see, if Stafford starts to fall, if you want to try to trade him for assets or where it is. Maybe do they still have Blunt? They signed him a multi-year deal last year, right?
I don't believe so.
No, he was a 1-year deal again.
He may be a free agent. I'd have to take a look, but I actually think he's out there and available.
Okay. Yeah, but they still have what's his face from Auburn.
Kieran Johnson. Yes, they do.
Kieran Johnson. Yeah. And this is only his second year, so he has 2 more years on that. So again, I don't think it's the answer, but I like the deal. I think it's fine.
Yeah. No, certainly think it's I think it was needed.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's go over just a few more. I know we got to wrap this up, but I can't stop talking and thinking about them. Went a little over our expectation, I'm assuming, but that's all right. We can't help ourselves.
Yeah.
There's football to be talked about. I think it's not fair if we don't pay homage to arguably, a huge signing in our boy, Nick Foles, heading south, warmer weather. To that massive deal with Jacksonville. Give me your impression of what you think Jacksonville's getting, and if you think it's going to work.
Yeah, I think what they're getting is a guy who can obviously come up in the clutch and help out a team where, I thought Blake Bortles 2 years ago got the job done and was serviceable to that effect. I think what Nick Foles can do, he adds a little extra. He might not be as mobile now as he was, those first years that he was in Philly. He might not be as mobile as Blake Bortles, because I think that was one thing that wasn't talked a ton about him. But he certainly adds a better arm, I would say. I think, is it a good signing? Yes, I think so. I think it's an upgrade. Again, Bortles was serviceable. Foles, we've seen what he can do when he's on, and I think even his off games of having a guy like LeGarrette Blount, or a guy like Leonard Fournette, could be like having a LeGarrette Blount, like what he was with the Eagles, is what I was getting after. Yeah. So I think that can certainly help out there. We'll see what they do in the draft. If they go for a wide receiver to give Nick something to throw to, some other, some extra ammo to throw to. Yeah. Because I think that was certainly something that I think Bortles might have gotten a little bit of the raw deal on. They didn't have the best wide receiving core while he was there. Even getting all the way to the AFC Championship game with everything they had. But I like the deal for him. I think it's good. I'm glad Nick got paid, and I'm glad that the Eagles didn't pull off anything illegal to try to max out his value, even though they could have and potentially had a CBA violation. But good for Nick.
Yeah, a couple things. I totally agree with your good for Nick take. He deserved to get paid. 4 years, $88 million. Argument is that Jacksonville negotiated against itself, because who else was really in the market for a quarterback in a win now mode, especially. But there are a few, and I appreciate him not going to the Redskins, not going to the Giants, who obviously aren't moving on. I don't want to play him twice a year.
Yep.
My concern for Nick and for the Jaguars is fit. Nick Foles ran 88% of his passes out of the pistol or the shotgun. Threw 88% of his passes out of the pistol or the shotgun in his 2 full seasons with the Eagles. That's that air raid offense.
Especially with Chip Kelly.
Correct. But he also did a lot with his success in Philly was predicated on the RPO. A lot, the run-pass option.
Mm-hmm.
Well, is this Jaguars offense built for something along those lines? Because they've got a Leonard Fournette, who is not a shotgun runner, much more downhill. They don't have a ton of skill position players that I like. Keenan Cole, D.D. Westbrook. Nobody blows you off.
Who's their tight end? That's what I was trying to think. I was remembering Westbrook, and that was about it.
No, I don't remember. Did they get the former Broncos guy who then went to the Dolphins? What was his name?
Julius Thomas?
Yeah, it might have been him for a while, but I
didn't have him last year, though, right? They had him 2 years ago?
I don't know. But once again, my thing is I don't know what.
You finish your point. I'm going to look up who their end was.
The weapon. So Nick Foles was a winner here. He made a lot of things happen, but he was also surrounded by a great supporting cast. When you think of that offensive line, you think of the plethora of running backs. You think of Alshon Jeffrey. You think of Nelson Aguilar, Zach Ertz. There's a ton of talent that was here to assist him in his ascension to be as good as he was.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. My concern, and Jacksonville, by the way, may remake themselves. So I think that's an important statement. They may add some pieces, change the way they play. He is reunited with DeFilippo, who's down there now after getting unceremoniously cut or fired, if you will, midseason by the Vikings. But my concern is fit. He needed to be in the right spot, and I don't know if Jacksonville gives him that. But we're going to find out, because they desperately need a guy, and he's pretty much there at least 3 years.
Yeah. I think it's a 3-year deal, right? Or are there options?
It's a 4-year deal.
4-year deal.
Majority, $88 million. Of that, the 50 is guaranteed.
Okay.
So it looks to pan out as roughly a 3-year guarantee. He's going to be there, and then from there they'll go. I just, for him, I don't want him to struggle, because
I don't want him to either. And I don't know if they're still on the roster right now, because you go on the Jaguars website, their depth chart is completely cleared out. But finding their breakdown from last year's offseason, they added 2 tight ends in free agency, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, who did okay, and Niles Paul as well. And I think they basically were platooned out of there. They don't really have anything else out of there. in terms of depth.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've addressed that totally. They might in the NFL draft.
I think they have to.
I don't know.
They just don't have any
I
weapons.
agree with you.
They don't have any weapons. Right. DJ Chark, D.D. Westbrook,
They had Mercedes Lewis was the tight end that they had forever.
Guy there. Yeah. Right. So that's my main concern is they're just
because that adds so much. It adds another layer to Nick Foles' play.
This is what happens, and this is football. You're paying a ton of guys on the defensive side, right? You've got Ramsey, you've got AJ Boye, you've got Miles Jack, Telvin Smith, Marcel Darius, Calais Campbell. They're paying a lot of guys on that side of the ball. You're playing Andrew Norwell a ton of money as a guard. I mean, they need to find a way to sign or draft some serious offensive skill players because they just don't have any. They just don't have nobody who scares me. So we'll see if they can do that. But if not, I'm afraid Nick might struggle. I don't want him to, but I am afraid.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens with him. I mean, hopefully they make some moves. We're going to be back though before the draft, so hopefully we can. We can find some pieces for Big Dick Nick.
There's a big draft preview coming. I am very excited.
Something else that's big.
No, hey, no, very, very much so, very much so. Well, look, you got anything else you wanted to roll through with when it comes to the football? I know we're touching.
I had this thought tonight. So. Yeah, we'll be talking NL West tomorrow. We will be finally doing that preview after having to emergency pot it off. But I know you guys all probably really enjoyed this. Let us know what you think in the comments. My last question to you, because I thought of this and just final note on Nick Foles. If you remember, there was the ode to what Nick Foles left behind in the locker room. We saw Lane Johnson talk about it. Do we know if it's been sent to Canton? His giant cup, condom, whatever you want to call it. Do we know if that's been sent to Canton? Because I think that should be.
I don't believe I hope it is. I can't tell you it has been, but it should be sent.
Breaking news too. Gonzaga goes down.
Yeah, number one. I just saw that.
West Coast Conference tournament. They were losing when we first started airing this. Stay tuned in a couple episodes.
Probably a bracket buster. St. Mary's probably stealing an at-large bid there as well.
St. Mary's was 20-11. They absolutely busted someone's bubble. We'll figure out who.
They were considered on the fence simply because pedigree, and they have some decent wins. But no, I agree. Yeah. Are we wrapping up here? Because I got one. I want to leave everybody with this note though.
Please.
All right. If you would note, you go back, you take a look every offseason. Winning the NFL offseason rarely has any correlation to winning the NFL regular season. You take a look at the teams that have been the quietest. You're thinking of the New England Patriots, who have barely touched anything. Packers a little more than normal, but really, yeah, I agree. Not a lot of moves there. The teams that consistently win in this league, even the New Orleans Saints, haven't made a ton of moves.
The Steelers.
The teams that consistently win rarely make the headlines during this time of year. Yeah. So the best example of that is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have won the last 2 to 3 NFL off seasons, everyone says, and then every year come out and really struggle. Yep. So we want to anoint teams right now. It's a long NFL season. There's a lot still to come, and I just don't go putting all your money on the Browns just yet. A lot of other pieces that have to kind of come into place.
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, we'll see where we're at in 5 months when we're doing our NFL previews and how we feel about everything. But definitely an exciting night, and definitely one proving the NFL still has it, even a month removed from the Super Bowl.
Yep. No, I'm with you. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure I ended with that. So
no, I love it. Yeah, but make sure you guys all stay tuned. First of all, let us know what you think in the comments. Let us know where you think we were wrong. Follow us on Twitter and tweet at us, ThunderBLG, Thunderbug Sports on Instagram and Facebook. Little housekeeping notes. As we've mentioned a number of times tonight, Matt and I will be recording the NL West preview Wednesday night. We're going to be recording that a little bit after dinner time, so get your questions in if you have them, especially if you are a fan of one of those 5 teams. Then Thursday, I'm going to be recording the AL West preview with my good buddy Seth, who's a Yankee fan, but because Greg had first dibs at it, he wanted to take the AL West. So 3 pods in 1 week, Matt. Really excited about that.
Can't wait. By the way, for those of you who think we're wrong, Jesse James isn't that great of a tight end. I want to throw that out there. They're overpaying for him. I just thought I'd throw that out there. But hey,
that's taking a look at the manifest of the listeners right now.
One final move.
Matt, you get suspended for that in the NCAA.
I know, but really classy move. The Steelers have kept Ryan Shazier on the physically unable to play list, which keeps him at the veterans minimum and also provides him with the NFL's medical insurance. That's an incredibly classy move by the Steelers organization. So, we're talking about how they may have not treated Le'Veon Bell or Antonio Brown correct. Well, they're certainly treating Ryan Shazier the right way. Shazier the right way, and I really appreciate that. Very good look for them, and he deserves it, and they deserve the praise for it as well.
Absolutely, and that's a great note to finish on. So, Matt, thank you. I'm really happy we were able to hop on for this. And that'll do it. For my man, Matty D, I am the G-Man. Have a great night, everybody, and we will talk to you soon. Go Birds!